Make some noise for your host, Kid Copious.
What up, perps? Kid Copious back in the bunker. Got the echo going on right now. We're just going to turn this down. Purple State Party here, man. I'm not going to restart. Nah, man, I leave that stuff in. This is real deal. I'm going to fight through this because it's been crap. Man, I had other things to start the show with, but, yesterday I came home, long day, and, I took a nap, got up, and I'm walking to the kitchen to get some water, and the dogs are going ape crazy, man. Ape shit over by the front door. And, so I go over there, try to figure out, what the heck's going on. And there's a police officer there with some old lady, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here, man? Like, come on, Now, long story short, after all my confusion, it turns out my brother-in-law had gotten really drunk and kicked my mother-in-law out of the house, and was threatening violence, everything. The police came, and they drove her all the way out here, to us, because there was only so much they could do. He lived there, and the police are sort of handcuffed, and parents feel like they're handcuffed too, and I know, because FYI, I'm in my 50s. I've been sober for almost 30 years. Yeah, you can see you can see my coping mechanism. I'm gonna be straight up about that. But parents, man, if you're watching this and you've got a 20-year-old who's developed a drinking or a drug problem, the only thing that works is tough love, man. I was given the choice between prison and rehab. My parents locked me into rehab. I got quite violent and abusive, throwing chairs, all that. And I was locked in for 30 days. By the time I was all done, I went straight home and got high. When I was all done with that, I went to AA for a while. I was, one of the, I guess you call it, president of a chapter. I was in charge of signing coffee and stuff like that. And I had a sponsor, and he drank near beer. I drank near beer. And, you'd be surprised how little alcohol it takes to trigger the voices in my head. I've had it from medical mouthwash. I've had it from foods. Prolonged use. I mean, usually just eating one dish with alcohol, and it doesn't do much. At one time, I've even took a big drink out of some tonic water that had already been laced. It was tonic water and orange juice that I had there for myself, and somebody put vodka in it. And I've had to battle through that kind of stuff. But parents, if you got a young kid, 20, 21, 22, and they're straight up struggling with drinking, you got to act tough quickly, because you don't want to be in the situation that my mother-in-law was in, where you have a 40-year-old plus son who's never got his life together, and he's at home, and you're enabling his drinking, because it will not end well. I know from a lot of experience that the older you get, the worse alcohol affects you. How little it actually takes, how violent you end up getting. A lot of self-hating and loathing. So, two things. If anybody ever hears this, and I hope they do, you got to get tough with your kids early. I've been 30 years sober, man, and I'm barely getting my shit together. It's a long road to recovery. It wasn't just alcohol, because, I, of course, dabbled in lots of other things after giving up alcohol. But also, one of these days we need to talk about labeling products that have alcohol in them. I'm scared of how much stuff I had as a kid. I don't know if that affected me. I don't know if it was the Ritalin or all of the hidden alcohol. I don't know what triggered my alcoholism as early as it was. Because, I mean, the first time I ever really drank, like for the purpose of drinking, man, I got smashed, man. I plowed through a bottle of schnapps, peppermint schnapps, man. Like it was nothing. Like, I don't know. I mean, we're wired differently, I guess. I'm still that way, man. If people are drinking slow at a party, I'll tell them to speed up, man. You know, hey, you've been resting on that beer. Why don't you chug that thing? Why don't you shot in it? When are we getting some shots up in here? So, you know, kind of reliving that, going through all that, kind of put a damper in my spirit. But, you know, I'm just going to do this, man. I'm just going to do this for a while. I'm going to do 52 episodes before I even think about reassessing. I'm not getting a lot of views. I'm trying to make sense. I'm trying to provide some balance to all of this. And I hope this episode can highlight some of that. So we're going to start off, you know, looking at some pictures, some things that have been floating around. Somebody posted this, said it was their first meme ever. If, you know, I'm a cynical man, but if it's their first, it's pretty good. I don't understand why we are, you know, why people are accepting the cover-up of what little and Biden has to say and how much trouble he has saying it. I don't understand why somebody who's a product of the bygone era, the era that's being torn apart right now, the white boys club, the white man's club, the rich white guy running everything, the segregationalists, he's part of that past. I just don't get it. I mean, I understand people's hatred of Trump, but you should really blame your own party because they're the ones who forced the nomination of Hillary. I believe Sanders would have won. I think a lot of people would have gone that way. I think Hillary was just a bad choice. You know, and oftentimes, man, when you get the maddest, it's because you're mad at yourself. And that's just, you know, my 2 cents on it. But, you know, if he's a worthy candidate, if he's not just anybody but Trump, then he should have no problem debating. If he's really right for the job. I mean, you had to go to an interview when you got your job, right? So, you know, I've always said I want to be balanced. And I want people making fun of this kind of stuff. Because in a lot of ways, it's true. Like, I mean, I know I could say, you know, like, you know, typo on gentlemen. I know I say ladies and gentlemen every now and then. Very rarely, but sometimes. I like to say, what up, guys? You know, what up, folks? I'm not sure about that. You know, on some of my other channels, I struggle with that. But, I mean, some of this just kind of common courtesy, to be honest with you. And I don't really think people on the red side should be getting so pissed off about this. I mean, this one's a little hokey to some degree. Distinguished guest, I guess. I mean, that's one way of saying it. But, you know, everybody deserves to feel equal. Well, I mean, that is the American ideal. And, you know, I think Republicans need to hold that up more than anybody. You know? And, you know, also in the interest of all fairness, you know, I think it's time that we just cut bait on this topic. You know? I mean, if the insurance companies want to decide what is a payable claim and what isn't a payable claim, or, you know, if they want to say, well, if it's a medical necessity, yes. If it's not a medical necessity, no. You know, they're private. You know, I think the government should just stay out of it because, as we know, like, you know, as we know, fireworks are illegal, and yet somehow we get them. Guns are illegal. Cocaine is illegal. A lot of things are illegal, and people still get them. And this is one thing we don't want going to the black market. And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's just the way it is. You know, people will go to the black market. They will do what they're going to do. Look at Prohibition. You know your history. Look at Prohibition. It didn't work. It didn't work. People just found speakeasies. They're just going to find back alley abortion doctors. That's just what's going to happen. You know, I would never do it. I'm adopted, so, you know, I may or may not have been close. I think there's a reasonable expectation that My biological mother probably at least considered it. So, I would never personally do it, but it's a personal choice. I mean, what if the baby was going to die and my wife was going to die? What would I do? I'd certainly want that option to be on the table. And we need to stop fighting these singular topic fights. We have bigger problems. If you want to tackle this, figure out a way to incentivize abortion. Adoption. Because I guess they've already done that somewhat. And birth control. Women need to have certain things available to them, and we need to do something to help them get birth control, and for the men too. But if you want to lump it all together with pads and tampons and birth control and all of that, I think that's great. But if you're just going to say no birth control, no abortions, this is 2020, folks. Like, that ship has sailed. I understand it comes from the Bible. I get that. But not everybody believes that. Not everybody does. That's a fact. That's what it is. Not everybody believes that. And, we have more pressing problems. And it's kind of sickening that we're even wasting our time on this in the middle of everything we're doing right now. I don't know why we're worried about this. I get it. I'm not discounting anybody's feelings about this on a personal level. I'm not at all. I share your feelings. But from a political standpoint, I just don't know why it has to be an issue anymore. I just don't. There's a lot of things we just don't need to be discussing anymore, and that's just one of them. And we're talking about, some of the reasons why Biden might not be a great candidate. And, I think a lot of it's summed up right here in this proposal of theirs. I don't know why we're worrying about the climate. And part of that is nobody wants to admit that other countries aren't doing their part. They talk about the Paris Accord, but other people were not living up to it. We pulled out of that because we were living up to it. They weren't. And FYI, electric cars use slave labor. And they pollute to make the electricity to light the mines to get the things to make these toxic batteries that are going to be bad for the environment. Electric cars are not the way to go. As always, being purple, things are in the middle. Those hybrid cars that use gas and electricity, okay, that makes a little more sense, But just go on with everything being electric. Now they're going to do it with trucks here in California. That's a lot of pollution. And just because there's pollution in Africa does not, Africa's part of this planet too, folks. You're just polluting Africa. Sure, our numbers look good. But is that what we're about? Are we really just about red, blue, and numbers? Like, oh, USA's reduced its emissions. Great. But the rest of the world is just polluting even more because we're having them do our pollution for us. So you buy an electric car and all of its carbon, all of the zero carbon emissions, it's already been taken away, man. They already burned the coal to make the electricity so the slaves can see where they're mining. Let's just be honest. I don't care if you like this man. I don't care if you hate Trump so much you're going to vote for this man. I don't care, man. But what I do care about is that, are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it just because you hate Trump? Do you really believe in this? Have you ever looked at any of this? Because there are parts of this that are, completely fraudulent. Paid for in part by taxes on corporations and the wealthy. That sounds good. This person here, by the way, disabled their comments because they didn't want to hear the truth, apparently. I'm going to have to find that now to put it in there because it missed the cut. But again, here's another piece of this whole big lie that the media is trying to sell. They don't want to talk about this. They don't want to talk about complex issues because they basically think you're a bunch of fucking dummies and you don't understand anything. But this is the truth right here. Blacks are facing their demise from their own community. And they're not allowing members of their community to think differently or think outside of the box at all. we had that C Squad from fucking Snoop Dogg, man. You know? And what? You only care about the ones that are killed by white cops? More on that later. You know? Here's Candace Owens. I like to always include her because she has something. You know? And that's what I was just saying. If you're going to turn on your own community and say that just because you're black you can't vote a certain way, like, who's holding who down? And I'm not saying that switching from being a black Democrat to a black Republican is necessarily a step up, step sideways, step down. I don't care. That's your personal opinion, and you're entitled to it. But the fact that they're not free to do it without getting chastised by their own community is wrong. It is wrong. And if you're a white liberal who supports this kind of stuff, then you're wrong too. You know, we're allowed to have our freedoms, right? You want the man who identifies as a woman to be able to use whatever bathroom. They can. Everywhere I go now, I see genderless bathrooms. I've seen some, unfortunately, that weren't done properly, and there was no lock on the door. So that became sort of a whole, as I'm standing there tinkling, I realized a woman could just walk in. So that was kind of funny. Not a good conversion on that. But then, on the other side of the coin, then you got to say, hey, if this black guy, like if Leo Terrell wants to become a vote Republican because he doesn't believe in the Democrats, don't just go after him. Think about why. That's why, look, I was a Democrat, then I was a Republican, then I was an independent. That's where I am right now. I voted for an independent in the last election. That's what I did. I'm voting Trump. Biden is not a worthy candidate. What the left wants to do right now is stuff like this. It's a double standard, and they want to just keep doing the double standard, and that's not something that really flies with me. I don't like it. I just don't like it. This is a woman I like. I think she's got some potential. We do need some no nonsense. Maybe Trump was too far of an outsider. Maybe we need people coming from different walks of life. I don't, I think we probably do. So 2024, I hope. But she's the one who gave me the inspiration for today, is knowing your history and understanding your history. A really good story about that is Okinawa. It's an island, X amount of miles off of mainland Japan. The Japanese during World War II, they needed to form a ring of islands around Japan as a form of defense. And so they were going to take Okinawa. They viewed the Okinawans as subhuman, and they brainwashed them into believing that the Americans were going to murder them and torture them and all kinds of unspeakable stuff. And so you saw the Okinawans just jumping off cliffs, throwing babies and jumping off cliffs. That's the history. And that's sort of where I feel the Democrats are right now. They treat you stupidly. The media and the Democrats treat you like a bunch of morons, but then they fire you up to be so rabidly anti-Trump. I get it. If you have a reason to not like Trump, I get it. But if it's simply because he beat Hillary, dude, come on, man. I mean, come on. Have some stones, man. I left the Republicans when they nominated Romney. I thought he was such a bad choice. Stupid. And I was mad at him from before because they put Palin on the ticket, and maybe she was just too batshit crazy. I personally think Noam is maybe she's got the good qualities of Palin without some of the batshittery. Here's another thing. This is Purple State, and one of my first videos talked about how it's about the wealthy, the rich politicians. And there you go. I mean, how is that? When everybody else is suffering, how is that? Because they're buying and selling the stocks. They're, what? I don't know. Man, I'm not no financial wizard at all. But I do know that. And you have to understand, I don't really care if you switch from blue to red. I think red is the answer right now. That's my personal opinion. I think red is the answer right now. I think Trump's the answer. It's weird for me to say that. I admit it freely. But you have to realize you have to break free of the mind control. And I guess that goes for both sides, really. Because the only way you're ever going to become purple is if you break away from that side and start thinking for yourself and realize that the answers are in the middle. They're right there in the middle. There's a reason why they don't want us in the middle. There's a reason why they would rather have all of us becoming radical one way or another. So we just shout at each other and leave them alone, the politicians, so they can do whatever the hell they want and we never even notice it. And if we do notice it, we just blindly support it. Oh, well, Trump said it. Must be good. So here's some memes because it's been a serious one, man. You know, I like this. You know, it's just nothing. You gotta be able to laugh. You gotta realize that that's kind of humorous. They're skewering the fact that there may be the use of paid protesters, probably on both sides. You know, and again, here's another very salient point. You know, this guy's been around for 4 decades, and he's running on what he plans to do. The other guy's been there for 3 years. 3 years, less than 10% of the time. I'm going to guess somewhere around 7 or 8. I'd love a comment down below if somebody can do the math on that, because, ooh, my head hurts. But, you know, that's why I like that one, because, again, you know, that's a political cartoon. There's a point. It's a point. Boom. It's what it is. So I guess we're going to go to Goya. You know, at one point, Goya was praised by Barack Obama. I believe it was 2011. And they were a shining example of, you know, a Mexican-American company. And they turn on them because they have a differing opinion. You're not allowed to have a differing opinion. Do you realize how scary that is? You can't have a differing opinion. That's what they do in China. You're not allowed to have an opinion in China. You know, here's a few more. And this is what I mean by the hypocrisy of the whole thing. You know, they're blasting Ivanka. Meanwhile, Pelosi's showing off her ice cream. And the worst part is that Ivanka is only doing it in response to the comments that were made by the CEO that launched a boycott. Pelosi was doing that on a TV show. She's flexing. And endorsing? I don't know. I don't think either one of them are really endorsing. And if they are, then we really need to redefine that, because there's just too much product placement everywhere you go now. I mean, everybody uses something that has a name brand on it. I personally don't give a shit. I would never accuse Pelosi of endorsing that product. Really bad taste. Another one right there. You know, it's just a cheap shot at her. Boom. You know, she deserves it because she's only in it for fame. That's it. She's in it for fame. Why does she say the things she says? Does she believe them? No. Does she care? No. She doesn't give a shit. She's there to get rich, and that's what Purple State really hates. Come on, at least hide it. At least pretend you're not there to get rich. Pretend that you're not there for your celebrityism. You know, here you go. See, that kind of sums the whole thing up. You know, it's just a flip-flop. They just go after Trump no matter what. Without any... Whatever. You know what? Tired of it. You know, I'm tired of it. Read this one right there. I mean, again, that's part of what I form my opinions on. That is 100% true. I don't see any of that going on. And if you want to bring up the few times where the bottom line, the assaulting innocent bystanders, was true, go ahead, bring it up. Because, yeah, that happened. That happened, and there's probably even been a few deaths at the hands of the fringe right. But the killing cops, destroying property, looting stores, no, that didn't go on. You know, there was confrontations. There were things that got out of hand. There were people that went a little too far. But it wasn't organized in the same manner. It wasn't going on for the same amount of time. You know, I mean, it's apples and Buicks, for God's sakes. Yeah, there you go. Again, I mean, these are truths. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that that is not true. You know, I mean, think about it for a second. Don't just take offense at it. Don't just take it that they're tearing down something that you believe in. Because I believe in that guy. I do. The one without the bandana. I believe what he's saying is true. I also believe the other side. And therein lies the problem. People exploiting problems. You know? You have to justify these things in your mind. I mean, these are truth. These are things that are out there. I mean, yeah, the right should also be worrying about those things. And maybe they're not. Maybe they are. I mean, bringing jobs back to America from other countries probably would reduce some of that sex trafficking in sweatshops. You know, tightening up the borders would reduce the sex trafficking and bringing jobs back to America. Perfect one right here. Boom. You know, living in the midst of COVID, fine, great. You know, we're going to have to do what we have to do. I don't hold out much hope for a vaccine. I'm just going to say it right here. There are thousands of coronaviruses out there. We've yet to get one, partially because we don't worry about it because it has a very high survival rate, you know, like the common cold. But they mutate. So, you know, if you look at flu vaccines, they can fluctuate between 25 and 70% effective. So we're never going to have a vaccine. We're just going to have to, like, just like those guys, we're just going to have to run ashore and run on with our lives and just run right at them. This is my favorite one right here. I love this one. The Orangeskins. This is great. But that's purple to me, man. I mean, that's funny. If you are offended by that, you need to check yourself. You need to check yourself. That's fine. Redskins are gone. Whatever. We've already talked about that. Moving on. If we need to do it, let's just do it. But now, in my last minutes here, I need to get to something important. And that's the fact that the people on Twitter, Instagram, all of that, you need to check your facts. And we can't be out there just flinging lies. I mean, if you want to play the mainstream media game, then I guess you're going to do it anyhow. But here's a perfect one. Hopefully you've been reading this right here. But what is the truth behind that? Why is that not really true? Well, for one thing, right here, McDowell was dealing drugs. 7 counts for the school incidents and the drug charges. And what was some of the other ones? She already had a record, by the way, too. You can see that down at the bottom. Bank robbery. But she was also running prostitutes. So I'm not exactly sure how you compare them. John Legend chimed in. He didn't say her by name, obviously, but there you go. It wasn't 5 years. We can't sit and lie. But this one happens to be true. You know? Nick Cannon. That pile of crap. You know? You really think that's true? Then you're a racist, man. You're a stone cold racist. You are no better than the Klan. You are no better than the Klan, Nick. At all. At all. We're not supposed to say that kind of stuff. Period. We're not supposed to say that. We are not supposed to spew hate. But you did. Whatever. But here's another one. You know, police are not going to get defunded under Biden. A lot of this may or may not be true. You know? But then again, I don't know how much he's going to get done anyhow. You know, but I believe a lot of this is probably going to happen. But I don't think they're going to defund the police because at the end of the day, I think they want a controllable amount of chaos and lack of police. No. And that's got to go to the state. I mean, that's another reason why I do respect Republicans is because they tend to leave things up to the states to solve state problems. And, you know, that's the way I look at it. But, you know, here's another thing. We're running along, so we're just going to blaze through these. You know, when are we going to do something about this? People that are preying on children, fucking them up for the rest of their lives. You know? This batshit crazy lady who may or may not be involved. But, you know, I mean, very suspicious. Look up her tweets for yourself, man. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, and you know, yeah, it's just disgusting. And if that's really going on, if this pedophilia in Hollywood ring with the power brokers and all that, if this turns out to be true, we need to bust ass on that. And if one side's covering it up, you gotta really think. You really gotta think, because you know Epstein didn't kill himself. You know, I'm gonna go into some other things here about some of the falsehoods about actual police killings and stuff, but you know, suffice to say, believe it or not, there were more killings by police overall in 2015 than 2016. But you know, you gotta know your history, man. You gotta look at what's going on around you, and you gotta understand it, because you know the past is the past. The distant past. I mean, come on. You want to forgive Nick Cannon for what he said, I think, in June. You want to forgive Jimmy Kimmel for blackface and Jimmy Fallon for blackface and all the other repulsive stuff that's gone on. What about, I mean, Joe Biden saying he doesn't want his kids growing up in an urban jungle. I mean, come on. You know, I understand that you realize it'd be very bad for you to play fair because you've got your hands in the cookie jar so many times. Yeah. But if you don't believe me, you know, look into it for yourself. Don't just blindly take the words coming off the TV or from the people they decide to put on TV, because those people are there for a paycheck. You can call me cynical all you want, but that's truth. The talking heads, the more you talk, the more famous you get. They don't have to pay you, but somebody's going to pay you. Why does Fauci always shoot off? Why is Fauci always, people's doctors saying, well, what's this guy thinking? Why? Because he wants to be famous. Oman or Omar, whatever the hell her fucking name is. You know, AOC, that batshit crazy. Pelosi, for whatever reason. I mean, she's already made enough money, but ego, power, all that. But, you know, they say the things that the media wants them to say. And then they get book deals and they get TV shows, you know, and booked on late night shows. And, you know, when it all runs out, maybe they could do Dancing with the Stars. I don't know. That's just a theory. But you know what? I'm going to leave 3 points. Let's go 3 points. Know your history. Understand what's going on. Look for these parallels that they're pulling. You know, the suppressions that they're trying to do right now. The erasing of history. This was done by tyrants and dictators across time. Look at your own party. Look at what they're really doing wrong. Try to be honest with yourself before you go and vote. You know, which is ways away, but think about your party. And the third thing is, remember that governors are far more responsible for what has happened under COVID than the president. The president shut down travel to and from the hotspot. Beyond that, it was up to the states to figure it out. If there was some sort of national thing that would have worked for every single person, I can guarantee you it wouldn't have worked any better than what we're doing now. And for God's sakes, keep in mind that we have had all of these protests with people together, and that's why we're having surging. Look into the numbers. They're double dipping. If you got tested 9 times in a row and every single time was positive, you're 9 cases. Look into it. I do try to do my research. It's there. Look at what doctors are saying. Not famous doctors. Look for doctors on Twitter and see what they have to say. See how they're being suppressed. Why are they being suppressed? And I'm going to tell you one thing before I leave. This is not being done to get Trump. Stop that. Okay? These individuals who want the shutdowns, people like Gavin Newsom, Herr Newsom, it's about power. That's what it is. It's power. And a little bit of fear that they're going to get blamed for a lot of stuff. Like Como sending 10,000 senior citizens that were sick back to the nursing home. So look into these things and tell me if I'm lying. Tell me where I'm wrong. I want to learn just as much as you. But man, If you got a problem, you've got the strength to overcome it. Copious out.